All right, so let's talk about pressure here just a little bit because we deal with pressure quite a bit when we are dealing with refrigeration and air conditioning. So we just got done calculating how to calculate the area of a square. So we're going to go back to that just a little bit. So atmospheric pressure, we have air that extends out, our atmosphere extends out about 600 miles from the surface of the earth. So these molecules of air that are in a 1 inch by 1 inch or 1 inch square column, if you can picture that, that goes up 600 miles, this column right here weighs 14.7 pounds per square inch. So pressing down on us right now, if you were at sea level, it is 14, almost 15 pounds of air pressing down on every square inch of your body. Now, if you're up in Denver and you're at a mile high, then the amount of air pressure that you have pressing down on you is a little bit less. Okay, so atmospheric pressure is equal to 14.7 pounds per square inch, and that presses down on every square inch of you and the earth and everything else that we have here. All right, so that is atmospheric pressure. Gauge pressure, that's different. Now, if you'll note it, if you remember, we got 14.7 pounds of per square inch of pressure, air pressure pressing down, but yet this gauge, which is open to the atmosphere, reads 0. All right, so gauge pressure, we calibrate our gauges to 0 at atmospheric pressure because we want to measure the pressure inside of a closed system where the atmosphere has no bearing on that pressure. Okay, so just remember, even though your gauge is, say, 0 psi, it's because it's calibrated to compensate for that 14.7 pounds per square inch of atmospheric pressure that's pushing down on top of it. Okay, so absolute pressure. So if you, for whatever reason, if you need to calculate the absolute pressure of a system, to do that, you need to take the atmospheric pressure, which is 14.7 psi per square inch. You add it to the gauge pressure, which remember is calibrated to read 0 at atmospheric. So for example, you take your absolute pressure 14.7 psi per square inch, and if this gauge were reading 50, the absolute pressure would be 14.7 plus 50, which would be 64.7 pounds per square inch absolute. All right, so you need to remember that. So gauge pressure is measuring the pressure inside a closed cylinder, is calibrated to compensate for that 14.7 psig. Atmospheric pressure is 14.7 psi per square inch, and the absolute pressure is atmospheric pressure plus the gauge pressure. All right, you don't have to do that very often, but you just need to remember that when we have our gauges open to atmosphere, we have to compensate and 0 our gauges out at 14.7, or if you're up at Denver, a little bit less. All right, if you have any questions on that, shoot me a question in the forum. Pretty tough concept to get across here. You don't use it very often, but you do need to recognize the differences between the two.